Okay, this is Paul here, and we're going to be talking to Robert Nelson, who, as time goes on and these recordings go on, you're going to begin to hear from and know more about him and his most important messages that he has for people living on the earth and in the universe at large. Today's date is July 4th, 2016. Hello, Bob. We just got done watching a show about titled "The Anunnaki Created Our Bodies but Not Our Souls." It's part of a series from the event that's on YouTube, and we were just discussing it some. Let's go back to the beginning of that discussion and talk about some of the things that are on that we both liked and agree with, as opposed to parts of it that are not only confusing but not exactly true.
It's interesting to me that this, and this is a statement I would like to make first, this day, July 4th, Independence Day, interesting day for these recordings to start. Real independence is being offered. The concept being that we were just discussing is that there are some souls in the world that are artificial, perhaps not even eternal, other souls that don't even exist, and other souls that are of the nature of God or light, the Creator God, and they're eternal, and they can be preyed upon by other souls that are false souls, these artificial souls, representing the efforts of metaphysical engineering of fallen ones or darkness. Now, part of the problem I have with this entire base of thinking is that it continues this mistaken way of thinking that we've had for too many eons in this world. A way of thinking that says that we are not God, we are less than God, we are damageable, we can die, we need to be afraid, and all of this is based on F-E-A-R. Make those capital letters. False evidence appearing real. False evidence saying that you are less than your Creator, so therefore you can be killed completely. You can be damaged. Certainly we can be injured. We can physically die. Nobody's disputing that. I'm not. But the truth of who we are, it's indestructible. You can't harm it. You can't destroy it. You can delay it. You can refuse to focus on it. You can focus on anything else. And if you do, then you're not focusing on what I guess the best word would be wholeness, which has been there all along. You cannot reinstate wholeness. It's always existed, always will. You can simply shift your focus back to it when you're ready to. Imagine for a little bit, if you want to go back into an older way of thinking, that God is like your parent standing there. Now if you go with various cultures, like the Hebrew culture, He's your father standing there with your birthright, waiting for you, to give you your birthright. But He's waiting for you to decide to see it and then reach for it. And He can't make this decision for you. He can't shove it at you and say, here, come on, hurry up, I'm going to die pretty soon, here. He can't do that. That very way of thinking, it's got to be done now, we don't have very long, is a fear-based way of thinking and is false. It would mean that even God could die. Not possible. Never. Ever. Never happen. Get that out of your heads. It will never happen. If our Creator can't die, we can't either, because we're the Creator incarnated. Very simple, and I'm going to put it to you like I have a number of people in this lifetime, and like I've attempted to in previous lives. Each and every one of you Each and every one of you, I don't care if you're walking on 4 feet or 2 feet, is the complete totality of God, incarnated in a form you may share. More than that, you don't need to know, because nothing more than that exists. Nothing more than that is eternal. Anything else is illusion, because it's not eternal. It may exist temporarily, but it doesn't exist for the long haul. Now, what we call our soul, you might want to call it the ego, if you like a more modern term. Nothing wrong with that. It's not eternal. It will change. You will change your soul as you go along. That's perfectly normal. From one lifetime to the next. There's nothing wrong with that. It's supposed to work that way. The soul knows it's not eternal. That's the fear base, the ego that says, I got to hold on to as much power as I can. I can't get a hold of the power of God without leeching it from everybody around me. I'm a vampire. And that's exactly what the limited self is. It's a vampire leeching the power of its creator from those who still know who they really are. What I'm offering is this, and I offered it 2,000 years ago to you, and I offered it 3,000 years ago to you. Heck, I've offered it since the time of Atlantis, if you want to go back that far, and even further back, and on more worlds than I don't care to remember right now. And incidentally, what I'm stating is also for those who we may not see and are listening. Some here in this realm and in this room, some above this planet right this minute. Each one of us is the complete totality of God. Now, if you approach this from the standpoint of quantitative thinking, it would seem impossible. And people say, well, I may be godly, godlike, I'm a son of God, a child of God, a daughter of God, a piece of the old block, a chop off the old block, like the old saying goes. I may be kind of a part of God, but I'm not God. Hear the nervousness and the discomfort in that? What I'm here to tell you is to get rid of that way of thinking. Chuck it like you would so much bad meat that you can't eat, you put it in the garbage. If you have to, visualize a galvanized garbage can and you're chucking this dead meat in it that you can't eat, it's no good for you, it's spoiled, and you're clamping the lid down. Weld it shut if you have to. The fact is, this is not based on quantity, for that's a limited way of thinking. It's based on quality. This is not just a fractal experience, though the multiverse is a fractal manifestation. It is not a fractal experience, though. There is no such thing as microcosm, macrocosm. It's like, okay, well, maybe each one of us is a little piece of God, and in that little piece you have everything that you have in the overall totality of God. No. That's a hair's width from the truth, but it might as well be 10 billion light years from your Creator. What I'm offering is the direct, hands-on, direct existence that you are God, the complete totality each and every one of you is. You're God in a form that you can share. Sharing is the part of the relationship, not religion. I never came to teach a religion. Not 2,000 years ago, not now, not any time. I came to share a relationship. A relationship is alive, a religion isn't. It's a bunch of do's and don'ts between the covers of a book. Well, let me give you a little hint and secret about that. You cannot take God and put God between the covers of a book. God's too simple for that, and too awesome. Can't be done. Impossible. I don't care if you're a Jew, a Muslim, or Christian, Hindu, I don't give a damn. And yes, there are times I do curse, just like I did 2,000 years ago. The thing is, you have to think in ways of qualitative thinking and not quantity. This has nothing to do with modern day science, which isn't even science. It's empiricism. It's replaced science. True science is open-minded. Observation. We don't have that now. We have empiricism, which is science focused out of focus. I'm telling you that none of you, none of us, is expendable. We're not objects. We are not destroyable. We cannot be destroyed. We can be hurt. We can be slowed down in our progress. We can accept being slowed down for whatever reasons in our progress. But we cannot be destroyed. Each one of us is God, the totality. I have told people who want to get their lives together to practice a very simple thing. 6 to 10 times a day, stand in front of a mirror, or if you're not where you can do that, say to yourself, mentally if you're in a crowd of people, otherwise they might want to cart you away somewhere if they hear you say this out loud, but mentally if you're in a crowd of people, if you're by yourself, say it out loud with gusto. I'm God, I'm great, and I'm grateful. Grateful being thankful or being full of greatness. Or you can say, I'm God, I'm great, and I'm glad. You say this 6 to 10 times a day and mean it, even if you have to fake it at first. You'd be surprised within a week's time you won't find yourself faking it. And then you'll begin actually not just believing it, it'll just kind of take root. Because it's the truth about you. It's been there all along, it'll continue to be there all along, and you can take as many lifetimes as you want or as many seconds as you want to come to realize it. You recognize it, and then you make it into your reality. Recognizing and realizing. This is our birthright. This is what our, if you want to put it, Heavenly Father and Mother wants to show us and to offer us and is offering us constantly, non-stop. It's so simple. God is simple. And we think of the power of God. Oh, well, if I'm God, I must have all this power. Guess what? God doesn't have any power. Oh, how could I say that? People would want to get their pitchforks and burning torches and come get me, I guess. The fact is, God doesn't have any power because God is power. If you have something, it can be taken away from you. If you are it, hey, end of game right there. You got it. And that power has nothing to do with imposing. It has nothing to do with pushing people around or making things happen. It has everything to do with sharing. It has everything to do with love. Because that is the true identity that we all are. What we hear about isn't learning. Oh gosh, how can he say that and he's a metaphysician yet? How can he say we're not here to learn? We're here to remember. We're here to recognize. We're here to realize. We're here to remember who we truly, really are. That's all we're here for. Everything else is just so much library work. And if it takes that to get us to remember, okay, because what we'll do is we'll learn to chuck all that stuff we've thought we learned, we did learn, as stuff that's just not helping us. If that's what we have to go through to get to that point, okay, we'll do it. God will still be there waiting. Here's your birthright anytime you want it. If God was to say, you've got to take it now, hurry, this has to be done by a certain date, then that would mean that even God could panic. God could be afraid. God could end. Well, all of that's impossible. So take that and chuck it out with that diseased meat. The fact is, God will continue offering this birthright of ours. We already have it. It's already ours. We just have to basically grab it. We have to remember who we are. And as we see ourselves in that wonderful vision of God, guess what? We're going to see people around us the way we see ourselves. We're going to see animals around us the way we see ourselves. And as I have often said, some humans walk on 4 feet. Some humans walk on 2 feet. Something I have found out from an archangel I know by the name of Michael, who's been a teacher of mine in this life, and when I lived in Judea 2,000 years ago. He once told me that archangels are not saints. You know, you say Saint Gabriel, Saint Michael, Saint Uriel, whoever. They're not saints. He said that humans and animals have that distinction ready for them, but not archangels. They're a whole different life form. It's amazing the amount of good that exists in us and around us, and it's just waiting to be brought forward. And it's amazing that we live in a society and a world that is doing all the machinations and methods it can come up with to convince us that we're anything but who we really are, that we're anything but God. We're being treated as objects and expected to take part in that believing, that way of thinking. And if that's what you want to believe, then you'll do it. You can go on living your daily lives, driving your cars, paying your mortgage on your houses and all this, but you can still remember who you truly, really are, and treat yourselves and those around you with that kind of respect and love and decency, whether they walk on 2 feet or 4 feet. Each one of us is so totally amazing. Each one of us. Think about it for just a moment. What if the person you were sitting looking at was God, and you're sitting there looking at that person, and that person's looking at you? Now go to the mirror and see the same thing. It's amazing what you can do. I once taught a class where I told everyone in the class to take their own self-garbage for a temporary period of time to agree with themselves for 20 minutes. Big deal, 20 minutes. Take the temporary, this garbage that they've built up, which is temporary. That, oh, I can't be this or that because I did something wrong when I was this old or that old, or because I'm this, or I'm too whatever, I'm too fat, or I'm too short, or I'm too this, or I'm gay, or I'm straight, or I'm whatever. Or I made mistakes and did bad things, or I treated people this way or that wrong way. Take all of this garbage and take another galvanized garbage can and cram this garbage in there. Put the lid on it. Sit on the lid if you have to. Agree with yourself. For 20 to 30 minutes, I will do this. Give myself this gift. It has nothing to do with deserving. You don't deserve Godhood. It already is. Period. What you do, what would happen if you could see yourself and those around you as Jesus Christ walking around, or as Moses walking around, or Muhammad walking around, or Buddha, or better yet, just say God. Love incarnated walking around. Limitless love. It doesn't mean hearts and flowers and everything's okay and it's a happy, wonderful day in the neighborhood, because no, it isn't. It means you remember, you identify, you remember who you are. It's identity. We're here to remember our true identity. We've allowed ourselves to impose forgetfulness on ourselves for a while. Now we have a right to remember. It's time to remember who we are. It's been time for all eternity. We still have all eternity, whether we are living on Earth or some other planet in the future or whatever. Truth is, we're living on all these planets all at one time. We just don't know it. There is no there or here. There is no past or future. There is eternal now and eternal here. We are awesome, wonderful beings. Think of what would happen if you could literally see the person next to you as Jesus Christ, for example. One example. How would you treat that person? How would you feel about that person? In this class I taught, we did this. It was at night. The lights in the room were off for a meditative atmosphere. And people actually physically began glowing. I'm not talking about their auras. I mean their bodies were physically glowing. And they were pointing out at each other even. And the attitude we developed, we got to the point where we could see our neighbor next to us as Christ. And then we began seeing ourselves that way. This is where miracles and healings happen. And in fact, another lesson could be what miracles are about. We owe it to ourselves to remember who we are. It's all about identity. It's nothing to do with power. The real power is the identity. There is no such thing as power as we like to think. There is identity. So God has no power, because God is identity. And that's the only power that exists. And with that, I'm going to state also what we call heaven. It is not a place that you have to die to go to. It's not a place you're going to reach in a spaceship. There are amazing worlds out there that would seem like heaven, no joke. But heaven is not a when. It's not a where. Heaven is a who with a capital A, W, on a who. And that who is you. And it's here and now. like we were told 2,000 years ago, the kingdom of heaven is within you and all about you. It has nothing to do with dying to get there. It has to do with you. You are God incarnated in a form you may share. No other truth exists, believe it or not. No other truth is necessary. This is all that is true about you, and it's all that's true about me. All I'm doing is I'm a voice in the wilderness calling out to remind you. And if enough of you come to this, you will change the world. And it won't have anything to do with the Zionistic controllers, whether they are the Rothschilds or anyone else for that matter. It won't have anything to do with the people from the Bureau who put our human race together to some degree. They're not the only ones. It won't have anything to do with anybody else. It will have to do with you. And you will recognize that you are the supreme being, love incarnated. And that love has the strength to stand in adversity. It has the strength to not blame yourself and not to blame others. It has the strength to offer birthright. It has the strength to offer growth. Not to impose it, you can't. That's about it for now. Another recording, we'll get into some deeper stuff. Godspeed.
Excellent. Talk to you guys later.